So you want to win with Bretonnia? Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the channel. It's Richie here from Diary After Dark, and I am joined by the one and only Luna Valentine.
Hi.
She is ranked the #1 Old World player in the world currently, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, I've it's been a journey.
So how long have you been playing the Old World then? Did you start back when in the depths of February, or did you start a little bit later?
No, I started actually. I think I was putting models together in January because when I saw the rules leaks. So I was basically on this as soon as it happened because I've been playing Warhammer for about 24 years. So I've been doing this for a very long time. This did not come out of nowhere. I was playing a lot of 8th back in. I played 6th, 7th, 8th fantasy. I was on like the U.S. Masters team for a bit. So I played a bunch, and then I was actually going to be going into 40K competitively, and then Old World came out, and I was like, oh shit! And so I just kind of pivoted very hard to this game.
Yeah, I think you've definitely picked the right side, I think.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it. I'll probably play another year and then see if the game changes. Maybe I'll go menace something else.
Well, I think you've definitely been menacing over in your tournament scene over there, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely a fun edition. Would you say that you preferred a previous edition, or is this one kind of up there for you at the moment?
I've played a lot of editions of fantasy. I think people have some very rose-tinted glasses on the quality of previous editions. I think 6th was carried by the fact that all the army books were pretty samey. 7th, obviously, it introduced variety, but not balance. 8th, they had some very cool ideas, and then obviously some that was back in the era before GW would self-correct. And I think we've gotten very used to, especially like post 40K, kind of like, oh, our games stay balanced and they get updated. Because I think 8th could have been a much better edition if they had gone back and decided to change the core rules. And hopefully Old World decides to take that route. And you could see with the FAQ support that they've done a really good job. So yes, of all the editions of fantasy I've played, I think this one is, I think by far the most interesting, or at least the most balanced that they have, which I know that's a hot take, but I think people really do forget how painful some of those early editions were and how the tournament scene was just weaker, period. It just, people were not playing at their best. There was a lot of lack of information because there wasn't the internet and that same kind of internet resources. So, I mean, you see like these Meta Mondays, you see all these other resources. So people are immediately on the bandwagon as soon as something becomes good, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think, like you were saying with the rose tinted glasses, like I used to play a lot in the 6th edition scene, in the tournament scene, and yeah, it's rough. Like I've said on previous videos, like if you lose combat
by one,
one,
goodbye.
yeah, exactly. Like, and I think a lot of people forget that, or they haven't played it recently, and they've just been like, "Ah, oh, that was an amazing! It was the best time ever." And you could literally just lose a game in about 5 seconds, which obviously you can do in Old World if you deploy wrong and lose a key piece straight away. But it's nowhere near as bad.
Yeah, I mean, like 5th edition, it was like fly high, bloodthirsty behind you, game ends. I have 37 attacks, right? Okay, cool. Or I didn't play as much in 6th, but it was kind of just like, all right, vampires do whatever they want, and everyone else kind of plays along. 7th was demons do whatever, everyone else plays along. 8th was, there are a number of armies with wacky combos depending on which era of 8th you were in. And if you did not have tools to deal with that, there was essentially zero chance of victory. That like just straight up zero. Is like, all right, I'm sorry, I have a 2-up demon prince, I win the game. I have a light council, I blow off your entire army before you start, etc., right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Right, so let's stop speaking about previous editions and let's get to what you're known for. So, Bretonnia.
Yeah. The brief overview of Bretonnia is that it gives you a number of tools to have. The Old World lowered the armor values on everything. It slowed down infantry. Obviously, that's why they're kind of low tier, right? It sped up cavalry, kind of incidentally, because of the instead of just taking Swift Stride, now it's like a mild Swift Stride plus. So, do you remember from previous editions? I don't want to. I guess maybe don't bring up previous editions, but cavalry are really fast now, right? They're very fast. So in this edition, you want to create threat ranges and you want to create overlapping fields of threat, especially if you're going to be going for that fast melee strategy. Because this is, I guess it's, how do you win? Sorry, I've been thinking about this a lot. How do you win Warhammer the Old World? You win it by scoring more battle points than the opponent. How do you do that? You must interact with their models and remove them from the board without losing yours, right? So either you, A, are a short, stunty man who shoots people in the face until they have to come to you. So you need to have more shooting so that if we both stand still, who loses, right? Okay, well, whoever stands still to lose then has the impetuous to move, okay? So the best position for you to be in is I have the ability to pin you into the back of your board and win the game without even interacting with you, right? And then I get to pick up all your models, and then you don't even get to roll dice, and then I get all the points and you get none, right? That is the natural state of a competitive game. It's maybe a hot take. I'm sure I'm going to get put on blast for that one. But
No, it's the truth. You need to be able to control the pace of the game. Whoever's controlling the pace is just in for the win, basically. Whether that's be
usually
shoots. Yeah, I think so.
Sometimes there is such a thing as like, I don't need the pace. I just have raw stats. Like there are armies that do that, of just like, that's the infamous like pressure army, or who's the beat down deck is the classic like Magic the Gathering analysis, right? Of I don't need to be particularly brilliant. I just cast lightning bolt until your life is 0.
Yeah, or if you've got a T6 ridden monster that's got the triplicate save and you don't have access to anything that can deal with that, which some armies are kind of struggling with at the moment.
I mean, it's the classic, like my game 5 opponent, Phil, pretty much every tournament is like, I push 2 dragons and 2 necrosphinxes to you. Do you have an answer for that? Sorry, no, you lose. Bye. Like, Phil's very good at the game on top of that, but it's very much like he can just stat check most armies, and it's like, sorry. And I mean, it's the same with lesser degree to Brett's of like, hey, what if I just triple charge you with whatever's in my army, Grail Knights, Pegasus? It doesn't really matter. Just like triple charge something from the front, and it's like, do you have some way to stop me from doing that? Do you have a way to disrupt me? Can you shoot me hard enough to where I don't just want to sit at like 11.5 inches from your dwarves and just charge you with everything, right? Yeah.
I think my answer is definitely yes, I will shoot you.
Yes. So if you were to say like, why is Bretonnian good? Bretonnia is good because cavalry are really good this edition, and you have a lot of cavalry. Falconhorn, S tier item, right? Like it's probably the best
just
item
utterly
in the game.
broken.
Right.
It's so
Everyone
good.
knows that. It's beaten to death, but it's just emphasized like, if you play against undead and you turn off their flying, they no longer get to play the game, right? So it's an important thing to remember. A lot of heavy hitters, very powerful armies rely on flying, and you just turn off the best rule in the game. So, and you get to have the best rule of the game while they don't. But a common trope of old world armies is you have your character selection, your core, and then your, I know this sounds really obvious, but it's like your core and special. So you're required to take core. So a common theme is, how do I make my core do anything, contribute to the battle in any way, or at least make it very difficult to get points from the core? One or the other, because both of those are valid strategies, right?
I think this is a lot of problems that the weaker armies are having, where their core's just not contributing to the game at all. It's either not strong enough, it's just giving away points straight away. That's where, like in the army that I play, I'm quite lucky because I can build my core into the main part of my army, where I'm going to deny with that, not give any points away, and then hopefully win with that.
But if you didn't have that core, your lists would be really, really different and much more powerful, just like everyone else's army, right? Like imagine if that was 500 points Iron Drakes, you'd just be like, ho, 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 and
or Hammerers or anything like that. It's like I went to the LGT and I was like, right, I'm going to try Thunderers instead of Warriors. And apparently that was just turbo shit. I shouldn't have done that. I don't even know why I bothered to just test something.
Yeah, because weapon skill 4, 4-up armor, and leadership 9 is incredible, right? And so it's just like, all right, I just stack 8, 9-point warriors, maybe 20 of them, put a character in there, and it's like, that unit will not die, right? It's got incredible stats on every sort of defensive measure for only 8 points a pop.
Yeah, take it to combat res 7, put the Rune of Hesitation on there, so suddenly your lance isn't doing anything, then they can just sit there and anyway, I'm talking about dwarves. I shouldn't be talking about dwarves.
Well, no, it's a good point. It's Bretonnian's natural enemy is dwarves. So I think a lot of my Bretonnian list does best against stuff that is, and Bretonnians in general will do really well against all melee lists and will struggle into like durable shooting, which there's really only like 1 or 2 durable shooting lists in the game. Dwarves are one of them. So it's like, I don't care that I can't reach you. It's like I have enough shooting and you have T3, 3-up armor models that just fall apart whenever they get shot at, right? So, okay. So Bretonnia's main advantage, all cavalry, just obvious one. Like Tomb Kings, they receive about 20% discounts on every model for just because they're clearly pushed this edition, right? For the stats, right? It's like, oh, a Bretonnian Lord has 1 more wound and attack than you might expect. He comes with a ward save without buying it, right? Or I'm Exiles and I come with um, Stubborn and Veteran for free, right? Both are very strong. So it's like my characters are 20% more efficient. It's like already you have an advantage. You're like, okay, cool. But your big things are, it's like a common. Sorry, that Pegasus Knights are the strongest units in the game, and peasants are really efficiently costed on multiple vectors. So
Oh, peasants are crazy. Like the fact you can get
yeah,
them to basically leadership 10 is really good. Like for the point cost, it's
specifically peasant
crazy.
archers. Like the access to skirmish on peasant archers covers a very large amount of your weakness as Bretonnia. Um, so a common thing is like, oh, I'm going to fight Bretonnia. Okay, well, I'll block up into a corner. I'll use Hag Tree to like blast you out of the sky. I'll use 90 poison archers, et cetera, right? 2 units of 10-man peasant archers solve pretty much every single puzzle box in the game. Of you just march them forward, and they're slightly interlinked. They give each other soft cover, skirmish, probably over half. So you're looking at -3 to hit at minimum. Very hard to hit them. They cost basically nothing. They get the Knights leadership, so they're usually leadership 8 or maybe even leadership 9 if you're like slow walking behind them. If they fall back, they don't cause panic. If they die, they barely give up any points, et cetera, right? So it's like now I can just run 3 units of 10 of these in my army. They do 3 different major tasks and they win me the game, right? So I think people really underestimate how much having access to 5-point skirmishers with longbows and leadership 7 does for the army. In addition to the fact that this is kind of my secret tech, is that like you run a banner and a musician, now you qualify for a lot of tournaments, right? You can now claim banners. You can claim. You win a lot of combats against dogs. Like all these subtle things add up, and then it's like, oh, I went and killed them. I get banners. I'm like, sorry, no, they're peasants. You don't get anything.
Well, it's got some secret tech here, guys. That's interesting. I don't think I've seen anybody else take the banners
Yeah,
in
banner
them.
musician, very strong. Because you'll realize that as you start fighting these edge fights where it's like 5 Marauder Cav, 5 dog, these trash, like it's very common now for people to just either throw elites or a bunch of garbage at you. Um, and so it's like, oh, a gyrocopter, right? He comes in, he beats you up. But a lot of times he might do a wound. And that banner musician means that he loses. And suddenly you now have a possible like 50, 100-point swing that you got for 10 points in core.
Yeah, no, that's
So
crazy. Although I don't know how concerned you've got to be about gyrocopters with the horn.
I think the correct move if you're running dwarves is to spam gyrocopters. That's my hot take. And then if you fight Falconhorn, just push all your gyros to the front and say deal with this.
Yeah, just
Um,
clatter them. I made a list that I was thinking about running, which is 18 gyros and 2 gyro
mhm.
bombers just for the hell of it, and just try and
I think
clatter.
you run. It depends on whether or not you're limited by best of 3. Like, because if you're not, you can go crazy, right?
Yeah, so unfortunately, in a lot of the tournaments that I play in over here, we are, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's probably better for the game, but
Yeah.
stuff like 2 units of 4 and 1 unit of 1. You vanguard and then try and get first turn charges. So I think you should be a lot more aggressive about charging with and just they're a nuisance. A lot of people leave first turn charges open, and you get them. And yeah, and against other armies, it's like if you actually do the math, like 4 breath weapons, you don't even run clatter guns. You just run 4 breath weapons, and you'll pick up a unit of knights in 1 turn. It's quite horrifying. Um, but yeah, anyways, I don't want to get. I know Dwarf Channel. I'm just excited by dwarves.
Oh no, no, it's fine. I mean, I can definitely get you on again to talk through everything dwarf at a later date. But I
Yeah.
do know there are people here that are super excited to hear on all of your hot takes
Okay.
about Bretonnia, just mainly because
Sure.
you've been absolutely smashing it.
Yeah. So I try and aim for consistency in my game. So like, I think I've lost maybe 3, 4 games now total.
I did look through all of your stats
Yeah,
because a YouTube channel, I won't mention name just in case, but
yeah,
they've been doing the running through the stats. I will
yeah,
actually
yeah.
I will post a picture of this as well.
Hmm.
And yeah, you've dropped like no games in your tournament
Yeah.
run. I think
So
it
I can
was
name
third.
them. I lost one game in Ohio running out of time. I lost another game to Brad Close because honestly, I just played it bad. He was running skirmish demons. I spread out and I failed a couple charges. He started really hitting me back with shooting and I ran out of gas. It's a good lesson for Bretonnia that there are some armies as fast as you. And so the answer against demons is really simple. Bunch up your entire army into one, pick one half of the board, put all your stuff on it, attack their stuff. It trades much worse than yours. And if you pick up one side of the board, then you get to the other half of the board and they don't have enough stuff. Um, Also, the greater demon is pretty easy to avoid. But yeah, anyways, so I lost the game against Brad. I tied a bunch of games against Phil. I just recently lost a game against Phil. That boiled down to I made a needless charge. So that's a lesson to learn for tournament players. Like if you want that consistently high win rate, you have to constantly evaluate. Okay, that was an 80% chance to go off, but it was a 20% chance I just lose the game for no reason. Like it was a small benefit, huge downside, right? Always keep that in your mind of could I have just played that not taking a charge, just move 20, free move, no march check, no nothing, no risk at all, puts me in a great spot to go pick up other parts of his army. Instead, I took a needless risk. I got punished for it. Phil's a great player, and I lost that game, right? And that's why I got second at Beltway just now. So it's important to keep in mind that, like, always looking at that percentage chance for that charge. And as Bretonnia, especially if you're even more so when you're playing traditional Bretts, um, I keep pictures of every single game I've ever played. So I have
Yes.
like, I can go through and walk you through. Um, but you want to methodically approach and corner your army, the opponent. Wait until they make a mistake because you're constantly I measure every arc. So I get a lot of jokes. I use popsicle sticks to put out
I mean, it's
to
definitely
measure every
working for you.
arc. Yeah, well, it's like my secret tech is I use a piece of paper and popsicle sticks. So I just
You got this
take
here,
if I
folks.
yeah, no, it's seriously, it's very simple. They're easily available. They're basically free. Um, but so when you're measuring an arc, right? It's like, okay, enemy dragon pushes towards me, right? He shouldn't have done that. That's fine. He pushed too close towards me. I put the arc down. I put two pieces of paper on each piece of arc. Now I have a very clear visual aid. This is where the death zone is, right? And just move the Pegasus outside the death zone. Keep the knights, right, like half an inch away from that death zone. If I were to say one of the other secret strengths of Bretonnia, your Knights of the Realm are very fragile. They're very precious. Treat them like they are very fragile and precious. Always fight unfairly, 2-1, right? Beat up on stuff that can't deal with you. So, Knights of the Realm, they are a core knight unit. They are one of the best in the game, if not the best, but they are still a core knight unit. Treat them as such, right? They should be dodging most enemies until like you're only looking to fight stuff that can't fight you back or that you're hoping to win by one, right? And you don't want them to be able to charge you back. So a lot of what my knights do is just spin, wheel around, and constantly create turmoil. Because it's if you want to get the only thing in my game that's nailed down, because I've got 50-point archer units, I've got 165-point knight units you can kill. They're they're just basic close order units, right? And I've got a Pegasus and characters, and the Pegasus and characters are small, so they're hard to get. So the only real targets are those juicy knight blocks. So I spend most of the game baiting people with the knights and then running them away, and then people go after them again, and then you just run out of people's arcs. And then eventually they're like, oh, it's turn 3 or 4. I've accidentally given you a good flank charge with a Pegasus. I've accidentally given you some angle that I wasn't paying attention to because it's 2 hours or it's like an hour and 15 minutes in. It's loud. It's a tournament. I'm not paying attention. This woman is too tall, whatever. Right. And she's putting out popsicle sticks. I don't understand this. And then you just find that angle and you start cracking. And once the 1 or 2 units are peeled away, it's turn 5, it's turn 6 where you get your victory. But you've got to be patient. If you're not patient, you will lose the game very badly. Especially if Bretonnians, you'll find you'll bounce off stuff. Like if you're ABCing as Bretonnians, you're gonna have a really bad time.
Yeah, I think we've all seen it with the rubber lances. Like you get a lot of Bretonnia players, especially if they're new or if it's their first couple of events,
Mhm.
they really think that those Knights of the Realm can just charge into anything.
Oof,
Uh,
oof, they are found out to be wanting. Yeah, it's like you
yeah.
assume that your knights are going to do about 1 wound or 2 to like trash units, maybe 3 to like unarmored elves if you're running like a big
And
knight.
that'll be the horses doing the wounds, not the knights.
Yeah, it's going to be like the horses might do 1, the lances might do another 1, maybe 2, and that's against unarmored like weapon skill 3 or weapon skill 4 targets like without serious counterattack. So if you only do 1 to 2 wounds, is that good for you, right? Are they striking back with AP0 or AP1 weapons that you can probably survive? Combat res is the game, period. Especially when you are that mobile. If you win the game by 1 on their turn, or you win the combat by 1 on their turn, that is so good for Bretonnia. It means you get to hold back and charge next turn, or hold back, completely pivot, change your entire strategy. The fallback and good order stuff, I know you were saying you like it. I actually think it makes Cavalry and Bretonnia even more oppressive than they are, because between countercharge and being able to win the game by 1, you can just push your Pegasus Knights into slightly weaker units. And if I win by 1, I just got to win by 1. You push away from me, and I get to go anywhere I want. And from there, you're toast.
Yeah, it does seem slightly more oppressive than it used to be, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
knights were trash,
It's the
weren't they?
same, but it's the same with dragons, right? It's like any sort of flying target where it's like, boom, you bounce off of me, I get a free flip, and I smash the crap out of something to the left, right? It's like you can do the same with knights. I mean, obviously, knights had some struggle moments, but like, I don't know, knights are pretty good the last 2 or 3 editions. I don't think knights are this one struggling. It was more of like dragons and chariots were kind of
Yeah, it
whatever,
was the separate
middling.
mounts, wasn't it? I think that's all it was. It was the just being
Mhm.
able to be hit the guy on top with a cannonball, he's dead.
Yeah, if they did tone down Lance, it would be better, but like, I mean, you're still getting Furious Charge, you're still getting Strength 4. Like, it would be less oppressive, but still very powerful. So, something I don't think a lot of people mention, if you fall back in good order through those enemy units, like, for example, that I know you were talking earlier about, I think it was Gorgon falling back in good order through it.
Yeah.
You know, he has to take like a 4 up or he'll
Yeah,
die, like
yeah,
over and
he
over and
literally.
over again.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the comment about that. So somebody was like, "How did he pass all of them?" And yeah, he did. He just had amazing dice,
Okay,
and then it was
just roll
literally
good,
just
I
right.
guess.
Yeah, yeah, just super,
Whatever,
super
just roll
lucky.
good.
Yeah, that was like just roll sixes, you win. That was like
Yeah.
you know when something happens in a game and you're just like, "Oh, I've lost." Nice.
Yes, I had that feeling very badly. But I think one of the things I've improved over the last 10 years, because I used to play when I was in my 20s, I think is when those bad things happen to me, take a 5-minute break, go to the bathroom, come back, recollect yourself, because, I turned that crippling loss into a 16 for him, 10 for me, right? So there are always ways you can keep your points up. And if I had played even slightly better, right? I needed one more point that game, one more point the game before, before that, for best overall, right? So never stop scoring, right? If you want to win tournaments, every single category, you need a max. You need to love this game. You need to be coming in with the painting to the inch of your life, bring your display board, be nice as possible to your opponents, right? Shake their hand. But more importantly, know your rules, know their rules, practice. Because when you're practiced and you're smooth, it's easy to be nice because you know exactly what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, you need to be the nicest you possibly can be. And a lot of people, when they come into an event, they think they need to be like horrendously ruthless. And you just
Hmm.
kind of, you need good agency with your opponent. You need them to have a good game. You have a good game. And hopefully your opponent knows their rules well enough that you can both have just a really nice time. And yes, try and try and get the nicest army you can on the field.
Yeah, I do want to clarify a point of um, I find that a lot of times, about half or more of my games, I still find most folks doing the rules wrong in small but sometimes cumulative ways. For example, multi pursuits are a lot harder to do than people think. Um,
But you can just block yourself.
you often block yourself. In fact, you are
Yeah.
incredibly often going to block yourself. Fallback in good order into multi charges is very easy for the fallback in good order player to get away from you, right?
How do you think my
Um,
stunty little dwarves get away so often?
I am. It is no mystery to me. Trust me. I've seen it happen. I've used it. Like Exile Stubborn can save you. Like even when it goes totally sideways, your Pegasus can skip through your other Pegasus. Right. Um, it's why you would really want to have like certain anvil units that's like, I don't care if I get charged, because that way you can have the layered, right, just like your Iron Drakes. But for me, it would be Lord on Hippogriff with Grail Vow. Any fails, go through him. He's immune to psych. He's like, come on, bring it in, bring it in. You know, I'm also stubborn. I'm immune to psych. I've got tons of defense, right? So having those bricks and anchors means that even when your dice roll catastrophically bad, you have a plan. You have an answer, right? And always plan for your knights to bounce. So just try and pick charges that are going to work out, even if you roll like trash.
Yeah, no, I think stubborn's probably low key one of the strongest rules in the game, in my opinion. Anyway, especially from how I play, and coming across it quite a lot. It's so good. It's so good.
It does. It's not as obviously good as it was in 8th, but it is. It stops your opponent from being able to run away with any points. And the more I play, the more I realize, like, wow, that is incredibly powerful. So that's why I think veteran is also low key. Leadership is a lot harder to get with BSB not being able to reroll terror checks and other sorts of very, very limited. In particular, not Bretonnians. Probably the biggest killer is not being able to reroll restrain. Restrain is the most important check you make on a regular basis, followed by fear checks when you charge larger units. Like, oh, I have 11 ogres and I want to multi-charge with my Pegasus. I'm going to need to roll out fear checks, right? And another thing is that people forget to roll those fear checks, right? I've certainly forgotten it once or twice. But keeping yourself honest, keeping yourself tight, and making sure you remember every single one of those rules. Like, you know, I just remembered that musicians get +1 for
the rally checks.
The rally check's the obvious one. +1 for march checks. And that actually, I had forgotten to apply that for like 30 games. And it actually would have been really important, because you make a lot of march checks as Bretonnia. Because if you're dodging and squeaking around with that lance, with those knight units, you're rolling march checks all the time.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I mean, I take everything drilled, so I suppose it's like,
you don't even care.
No, I always find it really funny when there's like certain players for different armies just don't need to learn the rules for certain things, do they? Like,
Don't know how fallback and good order works.
Exactly. And then as someone starts talking about that particular rule, you're like, oh, I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that learning curve is why I'm not seeing as much. It's why like 3 out of my 5 games in a tournament are kind of just gimmies, because there's too much stuff to remember, and it's like one little gotcha is like, surprise, sorry. And a lot of people don't realize the stats. They don't sit, I sit at home and I study, right? I study all my games. I read through. So when I'm making a new list, I go, how would this list go against? And then I don't have to imagine some list in my mind. I just scroll through all the games I've played and look at all the top, like, scary armies that I fought and go, okay, I have plans against this deployment, that deployment. Then I go home, I have a table, and I just plop out my units. I practice my deployment. I put them on a tray, right? So that you're fast.
Yeah, so I have exactly the same thing. So like over here, we use the square-based scenery deployments quite a lot. So I'll work through all of my different deployments on those, where I'm going to go. So I know exactly where I'm going to go, whether I'm going to do a full null deployment, or whether I'm going to go in the center and rush up, or whether I'm going to sit back, use the woods. And I think that's something that makes a good player a much better player. I know I'm not as highly ranked as you. I am only a measly 8th in the world at the moment, unfortunately.
I mean, with dwarves, that's number 1 in my book.
Nah, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I've just been lucky, I think.
Yeah. I'll probably be over in Britain, hopefully a little bit more next year. So I wanted to try and be more international. I've been struggling to find big enough tournaments. There's kind of a drought. So I'll be in Germany for the World Team Champions. I hope you'll be there.
I didn't hear about this. So
I mean, it's still happening. You can sign up. There's still
yeah, unfortunately, I'm working. So I was we're part of Team England for Old World, and we were talking about that the other day. And I was like, why has nobody told me about this? And basically, we just didn't see it until a couple. I think it was like last week, and then a few of us are like working, so none of us can really get time to go. But I think the next one will definitely be coming over for. Do definitely want to get a lot more team tournaments and stuff. I'm going to be. So same as you, like I'm hopefully going to be coming over to America a bit next year as well, and hopefully we can get some games in. Hopefully,
yeah, hell yeah. I'm close-ish to most of the tournaments around here, so pretty much everything on the East Coast I'll probably try and play. I'm trying to get into Du Bois tournament in Rochester. I may go. It kind of depends on schedule. I've got like a 1 day coming up in like a week or two.
Amazing.
Then it's Germany, and then LVO in January. So I'm trying to stay busy. I think Brawlers Bash is going to be in March. I think Blue is running his Square Hammer thing in February. I'm trying to help him. I've been writing him suggestions because I know he wants to write a lot of comp and he wants to do a kind of structured event. So I'm just giving him options. However he wants to run it, I'll play. I try and be a versatile player. I honestly don't care what wacky comp. I think it's a new way to play the game, and I think I'm going to try and be ahead of it, get the most points.
Yeah, I think you need to. Like, so I've booked in for the Welsh Open, which is I don't know if you know where Wales is, but it's just on the side a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So it's basically about 10 minutes away from me, and
Nice.
they've got quite a bit of comp in that, and there's objectives, and you can only hold it if you've got like banners in your units and stuff like that. Like dragons and other behemoths can't hold objectives.
Yeah,
So,
it ends up favoring Brett's. That's kind of funny thing is no matter how much comp you write, it's like, oh no, where am I going to get banners from? Looks at peasant archers. Oh, that'll be really hard. If
yeah.
they don't, and especially if they forget to tag like no skirmishers, it's like you need to. It just says banner, and it's like, oh great, like I have 4 units of or 3, at least 3 units of 10 skirmishers, and they're going to just claim stuff. And yeah, I don't. People can write whatever comp they want. I'm excited always to play it. I think
It's just the game, isn't it? Plus, it keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're not going to get bored, which is really nice.
Mhm.
So we've
That's something
kind of
I'm
just,
struggling with a bit, a little bit burnout, a little bit of boredom. So
yeah.
I'm trying out some new lists. I've got some new armies I'm labbing. So I'll let you know whenever they start bearing fruit.
Okay, what are you thinking about going over to? You gonna do the
You'll have to get me on
180
next
skeleton
time.
brick, or yeah?
No, I actually think if we want to talk about poison archers, I think a poison archer build is good. I did thoroughly crush a Tomb King poison build in Richmond. And the answer was that even though I kind of misplayed a few times, the Hippogriff with Grommerl just steamrolled his entire block by himself, and then I cleaned up the rest of it. Like he managed to get. I misplayed into caskets. I forgot how much damage they did. They blew up. This was early in Old World, but like they blew up big chunks of my Pegasus Knights. But just one guy getting there with 1 wound, and it's like I have rerollable 2 up, and I just stomped you to death for the next 5 rounds of combat. His entire army disintegrates. He had some Tomb Guard left. I win, right? And that's why you don't overcommit. You just have, hey, I have 50 skeletons in a block, archer, they're poison. That's great. Where's the rest of your threat package, right? And make sure that that's not a Death Star. Death Stars don't really work in this unless they're like cavalry blood knights or something.
Yeah, I do find it quite funny. So like when you do start playing competitively, you always get like I think you get smashed by Mortuary Cult probably once, and then you're like, right, that's never ever happening again, and then you just know exactly what to go for. So I've been playing against Bryn and a couple.
Also,
of
they
the
run
other
out of
guys.
time. So
Yeah.
that was a big thing. Like if I were to talk about like what's been my career arc right now is like, okay, being methodical, all that stuff, but I'm running to time. And the last like 2 months has been, all right, Nova, I ran out of time in a lot of my games. I won all my games, but it wasn't enough, right? I needed to get to turn 5, turn 6 to rack up those points. So I was way behind and ended up getting 4th, right? And that's
This is
a
the
lesson.
popsicle sticks. That's what that is.
That's the popsicle sticks. That's why they started coming out. I switched out from dice to that, and to piece of paper. Like keep the gaming aids organized and simple. But more importantly, it was the practicing deployments. It was the having a plan. It was keep that chess clock running and practice with it. Having all of my stuff in a cart. Like it's so simple. It's like the 40K players. I saw them with the cart and I was like, brilliant. I'm taking that. Right. So simple stuff like that can really make your tournament wins go up. And then when you see that Mortuary Cult on turn 3 with 20 minutes left on their timer, you go, hey, buddy, I'm calling TO at 15 minutes. Like I'm going to get all of my 30 minutes. And then you just play on.
Yeah, it's like I've got you.
It's fine. It's like undead can be very slow to play, and this is also some tech that I've done. I now just have a little note card that I just write Vortex, Green Knight, Rally. Like I have all of my ordering of everything. It's like okay, I do Rallying Cry, then I do Falcon Horn, then I do So it's. When you're methodical like that, it means that when you're stressed, it's game 3, you're tired, it's day 1, you're like, oh God, and there's all this shit going on. And then you look down and you go, okay, I am not going to miss any of these steps. I dispelled my remains in plays. I've moved my vortexes, my green knights on the board or whatever, right? Or whatever, my ambushers have been rolled. And now you're playing tight, and people appreciate that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think new Bretonnian players definitely need to kind of get in their heads, is just to roll the falcon horn. Like, even if they're not playing against an army that's got any flying in it at all, just roll the horn. It just gets you used to it, and you need to try and play the same every game, get used to all of your rules, and then you can just start streamlining it and winning more games.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't change.
For new Bretonnia players, what would be your best advice with picking up models, with whether they should play Exiles or not? What are your hot tips for playing Bretonnia?
Pick up 2 starter boxes, ditch all the men-at-arms. That is nearly an optimal, 1,200 point list. Measure all of your charge ranges. Anytime you think you can make a kill, try and do it with 2 units instead of 1. Take your time. The game is won on turn 4 and turn 5. You need to set up the encirclement. Keep your archers towards the back. Their purpose is not to score kills. Their purpose is to protect your models from magic missiles and from shooting, or to occupy space. If they do damage, that's wonderful. What a delightful bonus. Those
You
would
can't
be
really
the 2
rely on
things
that, though, definitely.
No, but they will randomly win you the game. I just had randomly it scored 2 wounds against a Dragon Ogre or 1 wound against a Chaos Dragon, because against large targets they don't get cover, so 30-inch shots can suddenly add up. But again, they only generate value as the board state. They start trying to ignore your archers and spin inwards towards the knights and towards the Pegasus, and that's when turns 4, 5, and 6 you're like, oh, these archers are kind of randomly doing damage. You're like, that's great. But the damage is a bonus. Their purpose is to protect you from magic missiles turn 1. Their purpose is to protect you from Wood Elf archer spam by having a wall of hard cover that you can hide behind, or just impenetrable cover. Please play your skirmishers right. They do block each other. A lot of people don't play that correctly.
Yeah,
put your skirmishers in a line. I mean, it's you see the dark elves Corsair list coming out of Tokyo. It's I knew for a fact you were not playing that correctly. I'm sorry, friend, but there's no way in heck that list does anything other than die horribly to a ruby ring. Come on.
Yeah, so, plus it's really slow to play as well. So I've played against Ed Fawcett with his double dragon, and then the rest of it's the repeated crossbows in skirmish. My God, that takes a while to work out how many shots are coming at you.
Yeah, and then it's all right, so I've got, and also just dealing with the bonuses every time. A big tip for rolling faster, right, for a lot of folks is know your modifiers for hitting, but after that, just roll and then tell your opponent, and again, you should also know his toughness if you can. But for example, when I roll my archers, it's all right, long range, whatever, I need 5s. Then I roll all 5, the dice, pick up all the dice that are not 5s. Again, that's courtesy. It's always good to. Also, I swear to God, if I see another person with unreadable dice, I will throw them out the window. I will defenestrate them. They right out the airlock, because that's rude. It's rude. If you were in doubt, nice big black and white dice, okay? And if you're going to roll in your box, be consistent. Don't roll in your box and then roll outside your box and stuff. If you're going to have a box, pick the box, please.
Yeah, I think it's common courtesy to say before the game starts as well, right? Everything important is going to be in the box, or there's going to be a random 6 that's rolled outside the box, and they're like, I'm keeping that.
Yeah, that's cringe, bro, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, but just simple stuff hey, 5 hits AP1, and then you move on, because you are already rolling the next thing, because it's I know all the modifiers, I know all the stuff, because this happens over and over every game, right? And this comes with time. Your first 5 or 10 games, this will not be natural for you. And also be comfortable with 1,000-point game of Old World. The first time will probably take you 4 to 5 hours. I think that's okay. Get a beer, have friends over, right? Relax. This game is super complicated. It's a lot of stuff. You're going to get half the rules wrong. And you're just going to kind of let your models flow back and forth. But if you want to win, really the first step is, do you want to do better at a tournament? Read the tournament packet, see how you can get the most points before you even show up. Is there points for doing cosplay? Do a cosplay. Is there points for writing a poem? Write a poem. These are all real things that I've done. Is there points for being a display board? make sure you have a display board, even if it's basic. Just get something, right? Just like a dinner tray with some trees on it, right? Get those points out there. Are you having trouble painting your army? There are 9 million tutorials, but also like basic stuff of like maybe just start with like a 3-layer spray paint of like undercoat and then main top color and then side color, like the classic pattern, and then just paint on top of that. Like there's 9 million tutorials on how you can get your models slay the gray, right?
I think a real big one for the painting as well is actually put your models out there. So I don't know if it's like in America, but over here you'll be asked to put your stuff into the painting competition, and then obviously if you get any votes, then that helps towards your end score.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people
that's
don't even.
rare. So
Yeah.
we do, the votes don't count towards points here. They're just towards so the normally we have like a paint judge separate, and then the player's choice stuff is entirely a
yeah.
separate line. But you're right though. If it counts towards points, if I see like player's choice give me points, I have a display board and everything out, and I make sure I place it in a prominent place near the door. Make sure just tell people like, hey, have you seen my board? Like, it doesn't have to be that hard. Just make sure people go by and see your cool thing you've spent time on.
Yeah, me and Tom Carley are quite bad for that actually. So literally the right at the front where everyone can see is normally my dwarves and his chaos dwarves, just right there.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's just a basic thing, but it does get you more points if that matters in your packet, right? Look at all the scenarios. A common one is keep your most expensive unit alive. Do you have a plan that involves always keeping that thing alive for those scenarios? Great. Keep your most cheapest unit alive. Make sure you have a designated cheapest unit, right? I have exactly one archer unit that's 50, another one that's 55, right? So I know this is the one I need to keep for that +1 victory point, right? Figure out a way in which to max a score. If there's a lot of stuff that says you need banners, make sure you bring enough banners. Have a plan on how to get those onto the board, right? So once you've read the tournament packet, you've gotten the basics. You probably are going to be at least 5 or 10 points ahead of where you started for not reading the tournament packet. And then it's play a bunch of games, know the rules, measure your ding-dang charge ranges. That's probably the number one tip. Read your rules, measure your charges. Measure your charges before you roll them, please.
Is that something that you've come across a lot? I don't know if I've had that. Although saying that, I mean, like I've got such a short charge range. I just assume everyone can charge me, to be honest.
50% of players or more I play don't measure the charge.
Really?
Like they don't. Sorry, what I mean measure your charge range is I need to know exactly how far you can threaten me. I sit 1 inch outside of that, right? I am maneuvering because what I want to do is box you in. I want to hit the maximum angles. I want to get you into a little box, because if you don't go into a box and you spread out towards me, those multiple angles let me find one unit, pick it off. Everyone else runs away for a bit. So 2/3 of your army is not fighting. Half of my army is to your 1/3. That's 2-to-1 advantage. You just pop. And then once they pop it, okay, cool. Everything turns. Be prepared to flee maybe from that. But now you've cracked open the initial thing. And then you work your way in, and eventually get to the end of, all right, you have 1 dragon model left. My entire army is sitting in almost a perfect pie pattern outside of your thing. And maybe I put 1 stubborn griffin right in front and say, come on, let's go. And then turn 5 and 6 is me just combat resing your dragon to death, right? Rinse, lather, repeat, about 4 games. 5th game, you're going to fight some weird shooting list. Have a plan to stick kind of in one spot and then spread out and kill it. Rinse, lather, repeat, receive high win rates.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite way around that I play, really. So like I'll have to mark, because obviously I'm slow, I don't really move too much. So with the fast timers coming towards me, I'll always end up marking where they're going to go to. So the max of all of their movements, and then try and pin.
That's exactly what you do. That's what I'm saying is like you measure all of their enemy ranges first, and then make sure you sit right outside of it. A lot of people don't do that. It's wild. I don't, it's free money. Right? It's information that's right in front of your face. And it also gets you to start intuitively understanding it eventually. After about 20, 30 games, you'll just know, like, that's 17.5 inches. Let me make sure exactly. Okay, I'm right outside. I confirm with my opponent. Great. I am now outside of your charge range. You have no interactivity, which can result in me losing the game. Cool. Your turn. And then he goes, moves. Okay, you've got threat arcs here, threat arcs here. Great. Those are the danger zones. I've marked them. Now I just spend 20 minutes to solve the puzzle. I've solved the puzzle. I slowly encroach towards winning the game. I move my pawns forward in chess, while avoiding the threats towards my key pieces. And then you trade up.
Yeah, it's always about the trades. I'm guessing that you always want to go second as well, really, if you can, to try and get that. As Exiles. So you don't want to get that turn 6. You know that you're going to be getting the last points.
No. With traditional Bretonnia, it's great. It can be really powerful in, say, something like Nova, where there's like a lot of points on the table. Like if you remove kill points, yes, I want to go second every game.
Mm-hmm.
No one has had the guts to do that yet, so I'm not worried about it. But like in 40K, for example, going second can be very advantageous for those reasons, right? But going first can be really advantageous for the pure violence of it, of just like, all right, I push you out, right? So similarly, since this game is about kill points, going second as traditional Bretts doesn't mean too much. You just kind of play cautiously and you kind of wait and slowly, methodically. But as Exiles, I bring fewer units on purpose in order to try and secure that +1. With Vanguard and the Pegasus block and cannons, you are highly, highly incentivized to go first because you can pretty much instantaneously KO a lot of people, especially like
if they've got artillery or anything like that. You take their artillery first. Like if you win that artillery fight, you're laughing. Really.
Funny enough, you just shoot at their mage.
Well, if they have one, I suppose.
Yeah, if they have a wizard, you shoot at him first. So if their wizard is not protected, a lot of people will put them in like a 5 or 6 man cavalry block. They don't realize that you can just. This is a common thing when you play against Bretts. They'll like put in a yeoman block. Okay, cool. I crosswise across your yeoman, kill 2. Next shot, boom, snipe the wizard right off the board.
Yes.
Right? It's nasty as heck. It only happens about 25-30% of the time, but it's extremely lethal. It's the best thing you can do for your turn. And sometimes they'll even give you easier shots than that, of like they'll walk forward with a key character, but they leave the edges of it in fireball range. This is a common one of like, oh, I put the human, or like I'm a Tomb King's player. I'm Mortuary Cult, and I'm putting my wizard in a cavalry block. First of all, many of them don't realize that you can't put it in the cavalry block because you are heavy cav and they are fast cav or light cav. So that's something you need to check your opponent on. 2, when they do it, are they the actual, like, are they the closest unit? Sometimes you can tag them. And then 3, even when they do all that right, it's like, okay, well, I'll just sit right at the edge with my Exile Fireball Wizard. I am out of range of your Dispel. I use Fireball to plink off all those things, and now I fire 2 cannons right at your wizard, and you lose the game, right?
Love it. I mean, at that point, you're basically playing dwarves. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's Empire, but they're French, right? So Exiles are
even better cannons, which is crazy,
and better stats and better knights.
While I have you here, can you potentially go through your current Bretonnia list just to let people know what you're running?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then I'll post a picture of it up if that's all right.
Sure. So the list is I am planning for Germany. My problem is talking about this. I guess it's maybe not a mystery, so that's fine. Hi, German teams. I know you're going to be teching against me. Good luck. But
just don't put yourself down first, and then it'll be fine. Then just keep yourself back. Then you choose. It's all good.
Oh, yeah, simple, right? Okay. So it's going to be Baron. So Exiles, Bretonnian Exiles, 2,000 points. Rule of 3, no special characters, right? I think Green Knight's good. I am actually kind of less enthusiastic about the Green Knight recently.
Yeah, the Green Knight was mental at the LGT during Hillgate. It was crazy.
Yeah, and the big reason I brought Green Knight to this last one was because I was expecting a lot of Wood Elves, and then I was and Bretts, because it's very good against the Bretts and Wood Elves. It's fine against other people, but those are the 2 matchups I was most concerned about, because I think they're very high tier armies with like the 4 vortexes or pure skirmish, very nasty. But I didn't see those, so it was fine. I mostly just fought Chaos Spawn forever. It's whatever.
It's always a better event when you don't have to play against Wood Elves. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. Like they're one of those armies that I'll just sit back and be like, right, I'm going to try and play for a draw and kill something extra. That's it. That's all I'm going to do.
Peak Dwarfhammer, isn't it? I'm going to play for a draw.
Yeah, I'm that kind of fun guy.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. When you see a list you don't like, you go, okay, come forward, take it from me, right? Like you got to play. Very valid. So my list is Exiles, 2,000 points. Bretonnian Baron on Hippogriff with Gromrel. And that's it, the Lance Shield. He's the durable... Oh, and Killing Blow. So the Heroic Killing Blow is very important that you treated as a nice to have. It's not something you should ever rely on. The point of that guy is to be an anvil that randomly pulls the casino machine and comes out with free monsters. But if he didn't even have that, I would still run him and I would love him. It's just a bonus, kind of like creates a lot of
this is
random
exactly
moments.
the same point that I was trying to make with Armorbane in my video a couple of days ago. It's like a lot of people go, right, it's Armorbane 2, it's Armorbane 3, whatever, and they're like, on 6s. It's like, how many 6s do you roll? Like, you can't rely on that. And it's the same with Killing Blow, because 100% that turn when you need it, it's not going to happen. So you need to rely on a different tactic with that model.
Especially with the Baron, when he's only getting 4 attacks up to skill 6. Like, against characters, he's only getting like a 25% chance to cut people's head off. Like, how many times do you even stay in combat for 4 rounds? Much less like the 6 you need to guarantee it. That's forever, right? So it's a nice to have. The important thing is that he randomly kills Necrosphinxes, Giants, Gorgons, whatever. You should never be fighting a Gorgon if you can help it, but whatever. Because it has the same ability back to you. Right? But the purpose of that guy is Anvil. I need a mobile Anvil that I can immediately put on the board. He's very good at stopping most knights, like the Blood Knight unit. You just give him a Gauntlet of the Duel, stand right in front of the Blood Knight unit and say, come forth. You must accept the challenge. Although actually I think with Blood Knights, they already have to accept the challenge. You don't need it. But like for most elite cavalry units, if they have a champion or a character in there, you can plonk them right in front of them. Be like, come at me. We charge, countercharge, meet each other. And I'm stubborn. Even at the worst case, most likely I bounce you back and then you just lose because now your key unit's out of position. I just crush it, right? It's a way in which to create pressure of like, all right, my Pegasus are moving up here and this guy is the brick, right? He is the pressure through, like, you're not winning this combat, right?
It's really interesting. Like, I think the most interesting thing about this is I genuinely don't think any competitive lists in the UK are running him.
The Hippogriff's underrated. An important key point about a tournament is you need to get as many points as possible, as often as possible. If you are playing a win-loss tournament, I might consider a different option. But when you are playing a cumulative score game, you really, really, really want to have an option to where I am playing against a player where I'm winning, but I can't get that dragon. I can't get that big key monster. That's a way to pin it in place and then bring that combat res in. The way you kill dragons is combat res, right? You never, like, maybe occasionally get heroic killing blow or whatever, but obviously the point of the heroic killing blow is to put pressure on your opponent. I'm not relying on it, but you certainly don't want to be into it, right? So you got this brick guy, right? Pretty useful. So in Exiles, you do need to go kill a unit first to turn on your Rustling a Lady. So like one of his big things, he wants to go kill Chaff early to turn on his ward save. It's probably good to bring a Charm Shield. I forget exactly whether or not I could afford a Charm Shield there. Whatever. Anyways,
well,
so you got the brick guy.
Oh, sorry. You get that from any overrun, even if you don't catch them, don't you?
You need to make an overrun move. So you don't
actually. Right? Yeah, because you don't actually have to.
You either need to catch someone on pursuit or make an overrun. You are only allowed to do an overrun when you kill everybody. So, like, if they double charged you and you killed one of them and not the other, you could make an overrun, I believe. I'll have to look up that interaction later. But anyways, you need to make an overrun of some form or catch somebody. Most likely you make an overrun, right? So you go squish something small like archers, a bolt thrower, war machines, whatever. Okay, you got that guy. Then you've got he's your general. So 18-inch bubble of leadership 9. It's nice.
Always good.
Always good. It's especially with veteran. That means that you're just doing great. Then you've got the Baron, Frontier Axe, Hatred. That guy, and Syrian's Locket. That is a tech piece against cannons and against other Bretonnian players running multi-wounds. So you can pretty much take this guy against other Exiles players, and if they don't have the correct build on their lord or whatever, or their baron or what have you, you just immediately put this guy right in their face, 7 or like 8.5 inches away, so that you also get countercharge. And they're like, if you fight that guy, you lose, because he just immediately nicks whatever hero that comes to deign to fight him, and he fights first before the Pegasus, so he kills like probably 4 Pegasus in one swing. And so he's awesome. He's incredible. He is also very easy to kill. with only 4 up armor, T5, and that's basically his only defense. So be aware that he is very much all hammer, no anvil. Then level 3 Exile Wizard, Ruby Ring, Lore Familiar. Battle Magic, you're just throwing min-max value of strength 4 shots, right? So you've got Fireball, Vortex. That single model, she alone picks up usually like 25% of my opponent's army. Just you keep her in the back. Good. She is mobile artillery. She does awesome. She's like Tomb Scorpions, pick them up. Like random ambushing crap, pick it up, right? So she keeps the board clear of garbage and puts pressure on people eventually.
It's so good. Pillar is crazy as well. Like it's so good. It's so good.
Everyone, yeah. I mean, it's like Falconhorn, Pillar, all these like power units, right? Lore Familiar means you're guaranteed. You also have Arcane Urgency, which can randomly save your bacon. It can save knights. It can save things. It can randomly fling your Pegasus Knights super far towards your enemy, right? Or any number of other units. It saves your peasants a lot, or it saves cannons where they just kind of zoop away. Then a Paladin, BSB. I think he just has Falconhorn, and that's it.
Only the Falcon, controversial.
Yeah, and like Charm Shield. So keep it cheap. He's just ideally you run out of character points is a problem. So it's just a very like tight balance of like I'd love to put more stuff on him, but I was running the anti-leadership screen banner, and then no Vampire Counts players are just bored of Vampire Counts. So just not seeing top players run it and leadership bombs. So
everybody kind of like won one event each and was like, yeah, I'm out.
It is kind of boring. It's very powerful. It's still very powerful. I don't think it's still to me like the S tier rank along with 5 or like Wood Elf, Vortex, Bretonnians. Like all those lists are monsters, right?
Yeah, I've never actually lost into Screams. I've never lost a single game into it.
I think a lot of people don't have the discipline to do it, and I'm not interested in picking it up right now. So, but anyways, so I dropped that.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm going a different direction, so I'll keep you in tune whenever I pick it up.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know.
So the point of those guys is just to bring. Okay, you've got the Frontier X and the BSB and the BSB is mostly to bring combat res, just a very efficient combat profile because you get the BSB for free. He's a good person to hold the Falconhorn to separate out. So they can kill one of your characters and you're not falling apart, right? So the point is the most important item in the game is held on a guy that has nothing else. So it's like, oh, you pop him, that's fine, but then you have to deal with the rest of the heroes and so on. This matters whenever you have like bad situations pop up. That's why I plan for the worst, right? That's I call it tactics, but they also call it anxiety. So I've got 4 minutes left, so I'll run through the rest of the list. Knights of the Realm. Archers. The archers are amazing. I've talked about them before. They are very important for keeping away your ambushers. Ambushers will kill you in the strategy because they'll just crimp your active zone in which you can stay safe. So you want to just, with 2 cannons placed nicely, 2 archers placed nicely, you can completely zone out ambushers, and then you use the knights at the edges, and then you zoned out ambushers all the way to their side of the board. Once you have done that, they have no way to play except to come on their side of the board. You squish them into this little lane, and then you beat the crap out of them.
I like it.
Yep. 2 cannons, 5 Pegasus, Vanguard banner. The cannons and the magic shooting put the pressure of like, you have to come to me. And then whenever you come into that middle zone, I try and hit as many angles as possible with the knights. Well, mostly the Pegasus, but also like the character. Create those crosswise angles. They miss an arc. They miss a possible double charge. You hit their flanks or some place where you can't be hit back. And then you methodically grind through their army.
I mean, it's definitely an agency list. Like you control the pacing of the game and you can really push them to come to you. You can't just sit back against it. You can't really come towards it. That's it's really good. I can see why you're doing well with it. It's strong, and also with your tactical brilliance. It's good.
Thank you. It requires a lot of discipline, an exhausting amount of discipline to play that list well. I don't recommend it to everybody. I think traditional Bretts with like heavy hitting characters and a level 4 flying wizard is probably more reliable if you're just like, I want to smash stuff and I want something that's more resistant to mistakes, because it's a list where you go from winning everything to running out of gas real quick. You don't have many models on the field. It feels like a small army, but it's brutal to fight against.
Oh yeah, 100%. Right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. It's been very insightful, and hope to see you again on the channel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. See you later, guys.
would just like to thank my newest members to the channel, Magic Machek, Tim Pitcher, and Close Order. Thank you all so much. It means a great deal to me and the channel. Thank you, and I'll see you again. Goodbye.